I've come to Bow in Devon and to the parish church, which is actually situated about a mile from the small village of Bow in a place called Nymet, Tracey. Now, I've never visited this place before, so I'm just going to go through and have a look and explore it together. As we face the church, right in front here is the War Memorial, and with names on it we have 12 names of those who died in the First World War, and beneath that another 4 names for those that died in the Second War. Now here is a memorial to 2 men who gave their lives in the First World War. At the top we can see Petty Officer Charles Holmes, husband of Alice Holmes and eldest son of Albert and Mary, who went down with his ship, HMS Pheasant, 1917, aged 30 years. And then Sergeant Thomas Holmes, Military Medal, the beloved son of Albert and Mary Ann Holmes, who died 1919 after a short illness, having completed 4.5 years of faithful service in his country's cause, aged 28. So these 2 brothers died during the First World War. At the bottom we've got a mention: Eric Henry, only son of Henry and Beatrice Holmes, who fell asleep in 1928, aged 1 year and 8 months. So this is the 2 brothers, Charles Holmes, who went down in his ship, and Thomas Holmes, who died of sickness after serving for almost the whole of the First War. The church, like so many in Devon, dates back to sort of 12th, 13th century, although it has had a lot of modifications over the year, a lot of changes, particularly in the Victorian period. This window here, I note, is 14th, 15th century. We're talking of a window that's 500, 600 years old. Let's see if we can see inside the church. Sundial above the door, telling us completely the wrong time, but it's nice to see the sundial. Well, the church is unlocked, and I found the light switch. We've got pews on both sides. We've got the rood screen ahead, very elaborately carved. There are a few inscriptions on the wall, memorials. This is Samuel Rayford of Grattan, 1859. Mary, his wife. Samuel Rayford, 1857. Robert Rayford of Exeter. And then Mary and Anne. This one to Second Lieutenant Fenton Ellis, S. Phillips, MC, Military Cross, Devon Regiment and Royal Flying Corps. Elder son of Edward Stanley Phillips, Rector, born 1895 and died for his country 1916. One of the early members of the Royal Flying Corps. High up on the wall is one to William Packer, Esquire, who died in 1856, aged 75, to whose liberality the inhabitants of Bow are mainly indebted for the works that supply the town with water. Deceased having, by will dated 1855, placed £400 at their disposal for that benevolent purpose. And then this framed document underlying the history of this church and shows the rectors dating back to the year 1270. Now there's a lot of reflection on that. I hope you can make out the words. Well, that was the inside of the church. Let's see if we can make out some of the inscriptions out here in the graveyard. This one, despite its great age, is easy to read. Sylvanus Lake, native of this parish, who died at Weston Farm, 1792, aged 70. And then Mrs. Bridget Lake, native of Mere, Somerset. She died at Bridgewater, 1835, aged 69 years. Another one that dates back a long way. Here lieth in hope of a joyful resurrection the body of Margaret, ye daughter of Edward and Catherine May, who was buried April 21st, 1747. I can't quite see the age at the bottom there. That's beautifully preserved. 1743. This is a clear to read. William Arthur Jackman, 1900, aged 52. And Sidney Victor Jackman, his son, who died aged 7 months in 1884. And then his wife at the bottom there, Frances Elizabeth. She lived on till she was 82. And their sons 1940 and 1955. A very solid stone cross. This is Amelia Stuckey, Kent, widow of W.H. Kent of Leeds. Now Leeds is 250 miles from here, up in Yorkshire. She was born 1866 and died 1918, and you just wonder, in those days, what brought the family down to this little parish of Nymet, Tracey. And here's one to Thomas Hooper, 1821, and Elizabeth Hooper, 1823. So again, we're looking at a stone that's 200 years old and still very readable, though it's been out in the open for all of those 200 years. This one is to Robert Nix, the husband of Sarah Ann Nix, 1916. And at the top we've got the clasped hands. You'll notice the hand on the left is smaller and has a frilly end to the sleeve, almost certainly the female then, and it's clasped in the larger hand on the right, which is generally the male. Quite often see with the clasped hands you can determine that there's one of each sex. Against the wall of the church tower is this little cross, clearly a children's grave. The inscription on the front here is in memory of Alan, aged 2 days, and Nancy, aged 16 months, the darling children of Sherry and Herbert Rouse Bastard. Doesn't give a year. A little different in design, the outline of the stone, and the name I can make out is John Anderson, and I think it's 1841. Difficult to read the date, but interesting design for a stone. This one nearby is to Mary Ann Godfrey, and I noticed the interesting patterns that the lichen has made on the stone face, and one next to it has got some moss growing on it. Just gives the place a character. Around the other side of the church we have a little group of stones. I see this one coming up is John Cockram, William Cockram, and the row behind we've got Thomas Cockram, 1897, Mary Snell White, 1864, Elizabeth, the wife of James Cockram, 1897, John Stanlake, 1854, with a nice script underneath it. A very decorated stone here, but the name seems to be Mary Ann Baker. Very nicely decorated, that one. And then across to Catherine Street, 1837. Against this wall here we have 4 stones that stood up. John Rowden Tucker, 1892. This one's tipping forward. I'll get down lower. To the memory of our beloved parents, formerly of this parish, interred at Kingston-on-Thames, which is just outside London, William Hatherley, 1901, and Anne Hatherley, daughter of George and Maria Snell, 1922, and a sister mentioned at the bottom. Let's move along to this one here in white. Mary Powellsland, wife of George Powellsland. She died in 1895. And the 4th one standing against this wall. This is Susanna Locke, who died at Sidmouth, down on the south coast, aged 70 years. And also in memory of William Greenslade, husband of the above. And it mentions James Locke. Now directly across the lane from this churchyard, you can see they got an extension to the churchyard. You see the rows of stones over there, the more recent stones. So we'll cross the little lane and have a look around that area. I'm about to leave and I notice this little stone propped up by the gate. Parish, May 2nd, 1738. Well, I've crossed the road and come into the newer section, and you can see that the graves are a lot more modern. These are the older ones in this section. One there to Thomas Snell. Sarah Ann Nix, 1952. One over the back there. Let's go and have a look at that one. Corporal Wilfred Francis Murrin, RAF, beloved husband of Beatrice, 1943, age 23. He died during the Second World War and he was in the RAF, so no doubt he was serving. But whether he died directly from the war is not clear. This one caught my eye, although the image is badly faded. It's a young man on a motorcycle, Ryan Johnston, aged 17 years, taken from us in May 2008. I don't know if you can make out any image on there at all, but it is a man on a motorcycle. Well, from the new section of the graveyard, I'm looking back at the old church of Nymet, Tracey, in the parish of Bow. Very pleasant, very peaceful. Just the sound of bird song when I come here. Well worth a visit. Till the next time.